Tai Caria. Tai Caria. Matro. I can hear only silence. I can hear only silence. No reaction to what I have said.
We can hear you. We can hear you.
Hello, sir. Can hear you.
Sir.
Hi.
We can hear you.
You can hear me, but did you understand what I said?
No.
Tai Caria. Matro. No one can understand, perhaps, what I
Sir,
have
I think the guest
said.
understands what you're saying.
Let's see. Let's see. In fact, he not only understands what I have said, he did create the language from the very beginning. He was involved in the project of revitalization of the language. This language is called the Taino language. It is an Indian language that was extinct for some time, and he carried out a project to revitalize the language. This is our guest today. He's a linguist. He's a polyglot, speaking 9 languages. He will be speaking today about his experience his experience with languages as a polyglot, and the benefits and responsibilities of being a multilingual professional. And then he is going to address the subject of revitalization of languages, taking his project as a case study. We are very pleased and honored to welcome this evening a guest speaker who is multidisciplinary. He is doing so many things. He has so many hats. Javier. Javier is a very close friend of mine, and we met on one occasion, and we discovered that we have, both of us, a passion for languages and translation, traveling, and so on and so forth. And I discovered the person. But this is just a brief introduction of him. And I wanted at some point to bring him to my classes, the face-to-face classes, but he had to travel back home the following day, and this didn't happen, unfortunately, but it is happening now. And he has kindly accepted my invitation to meet with my students. Javier Hernandez was born in Río Piedras in Puerto Rico. So he is a Puerto Rican father, author, artist, linguist, entrepreneur, and world traveler, and also an indigenous rights activist. Perhaps we are going to discuss language rights later on in the discussion. I encourage you to ask questions related to language rights and linguistic rights. Javier earned a BA in political science and international relations from Florida International University, and an MA in international communication from the American University, and an MS in education. Javier has also earned certificates in diplomacy of small states, emergency management, Homeland Security Planning, global security issues, and nonviolent conflict and civil resistance. Javier is committed to social justice, cultural activism, and indigenous rights. Javier is recognized as a linguist and is currently he is currently one of a few people in Puerto Rico and the United States who are members of the International Association of Hyper Polyglots, being able to speak 9 languages, as I said earlier, and read 13 other languages. In 2018, Javier also reconstructed and revitalized a modern variant of the indigenous Taino language of the Caribbean and published its first primer, which is being used in various indigenous school programs now in Puerto Rico. Regarding Taino and indigenous rights, education and cultural development, Javier is the director of diaspora affairs of the Naguake Taino community. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. The Taino community of Puerto Rico, and a supporter of the Naguake Taino alphabet. Javier is married and has 4 children. Without further ado, I hand it over to Javier. You have the floor, dear guest. I think you are muted, Javier.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. Thank you. Sorry, I apologize about that. First, I thank you, Hammouda, for putting all this together. I know it takes a lot of time and effort and energy to coordinate all this. So thank you. I appreciate everything that you're doing. I'd like to say hi to all the participants. I wish I could have met you in person in Tunis. Last time I was there, which I love Tunis. I had a great time and I'd love to go back. Especially I'd like to visit Sfax. That's something that I never got to do. And maybe go into the desert a little bit. I didn't do any of the desert experience, but there's a lot that I want to do in Tunis. Well, again, thank you all for being here. And I'm just going to, just talk, in a formal talk about my experiences, the benefits, responsibilities. But I encourage you, please ask good questions so that we can further have a good conversation. So my experiences is, like Hammouda said, I was born in Puerto Rico. Both my parents are Puerto Rican, so my first language is Spanish. And then when I was like 4 years old, we moved to the United States. And there I learned English in school quickly. So by the age of, I would say 5 or 6, I was already a full bilingual, English, Spanish. And that was fine. That was great. That for me was normal. In a society where usually they speak just one language, English, and that was enough for many people. But I spoke 2, and it was great for me. I loved it, no problems. Although there were sometimes in school that, some discrimination issues with children, and why do you speak that language? I'm sure this happens all over the world, situations like this. But I kept going. I kept the language. I didn't try to forget it, like some people try to do. And so by the time I was in high school, I decided to not just know Spanish, I wanted to master it. My own native language, not just speak to my mother and my grandmother. I wanted to really learn it and read it and develop a high vocabulary and read old texts, all this. So during high school, I did that. During my, was it 9th grade? I did that, accomplished that, I was done. Then I decided to, let me try to learn French. Let me see how that goes. And I learned conversational French in, I think, about 3 months. So when I did that, I began to realize, oh, maybe I have a gift for languages. Maybe let me try to develop this more. And then I learned Portuguese by myself, in my house, in my room. And this was before the internet. So before YouTube, it was just me, a book, and some music that I happened to get from the library in that language. That was it. So I managed to learn French, Portuguese, and then by the time I graduated high school, I also mastered Italian, and which I loved. It was great. And then when I began college, I decided to not just settle for, okay, I speak all these languages. I wanted to do more. I wanted to do as the best I can. And so then I tried to master them, the ones I already spoke, not just to develop them more, but then I tried to do German and Mandarin Chinese. And I developed a conversational ability in those languages. I'm still trying, again, because of life and family, and I don't speak them every day where I live. So I'm always still trying to practice and develop my German and Mandarin skills. And so then I just decided, I can do this. It's a skill. I'm going to take advantage of it. I don't want to throw it away, waste it. So I decided that I really, really need to learn languages. So I learned all those languages by myself, and they opened up so many opportunities for me. And it wasn't just opportunities like meeting new people or like this. It was for work, for career, for learning about other peoples and other cultures, reading books in the original language, now without having to do translations. That was amazing for me. And it allowed me to meet more people in the world and to relate and communicate with many, many more people that I would not have been able to if I didn't learn all these languages. So basically I decided that it's not just a hobby, it's a passion. And I still, even today, even right now, I still try to develop my languages, practice, read books in the language so that I don't forget, try to use it. I listen now that I'm in the internet age now, I try to listen to YouTube videos of languages and things like this. Now I can also sometimes put in Netflix, I can change the language to the language I want to listen to it, like French or Italian or whatever. And it's great that you can do this now. So those are my experiences with being a multilingual, that it has opened up so many opportunities for me, for language, for not just learning, but for career, for travel. There were many times.
How is that, Javier? Can you give us examples?
Oh, with a career, I worked for about 7 years with in the U.S. diplomacy world and that area. And that was amazing. That was a great opportunity. I learned a lot, met a great people. But a lot of the work that I did involved communication with many different people in an embassy or people outside of embassies, business people, farmer people, everyone. So the fact that I was bilingual or multilingual in these situations allowed me to access all that information. And by being able to do that, it made me very valuable to the organization or the unit I was working in. The fact that I can go and communicate with all these people without having to have 3 interpreters next to me, that I could do it by myself and talk to these people and understand the cultural nuance. That's also very important. It's just not like a translating Google Translate robot. It's understanding the cultural nuance. Being from Latin America, I understand the way that when people are saying things, what they really mean. The cultural understandings and intercultural communication situations and issues. So that's very important, especially if you're working in diplomacy or anything in the international arena. That was my experience. But also then a lot of this would also play into the language revitalization, where we can talk more later about this, but I decided that if you're going to be multicultural, multinational, multilingual, it's not just, in my opinion, not just good to, oh, I know languages and stop. If you have the ability to do this, you should go further and try to do something good in the world, not just collect languages like a collector. Like I collect stamps and I collect languages. No, if you can just know the language and learn them, that's great. But if you can contribute, add something new, that's amazing, because that outlives you. One day we're all not, everyone's going to go away one day, but whatever you contributed will live on, and maybe you can do something great. So I started studying about these languages that are extinct or in danger of being extinct, and I decided it'd be great, why not, to learn some of these languages myself. Yep. So yeah, I mean, if there are any other questions, that was a great question. Thank you, Hammouda. Thank you.
Thank you. So I would like to ask you about you as a multilingual professional, but you pose a threat to the jobs of interpreters. If you are doing your job without an interpreter, then interpreters perhaps are not happy with the situation, and some of their jobs will be lost. So how do you react to that? And are you yourself a translator or interpreter?
No, I am not an official interpreter or translator, but in every job that I've had, I always become the official translator or interpreter like this. No, believe me, being a multilingual profession, for example, there is not a threat to any interpreter or translator's job at all, because there are so many people and so many situations that need interpreters, and there's only one of me and a few multilingual people around. We can't all be in the same place every day. So believe me, I would just use my languages in a particular situation that I'm in, just there, like in a meeting or something. But I'm there as an agent of the meeting. I'm not there as an interpreter.
Yeah.
But there are times where I'm in a situation and maybe something's going on and I need to quickly translate a sign or what's happening to someone. But that's it. But in terms of doing a whole meeting or translating a whole meeting or interpreting, no, that's a field that I reserve for you, professionals like you and others to accomplish. Yeah.
So yeah, another question about the languages. How do you manage your languages? Do you treat them like daughters, or do you treat them like projects, and how you take care of them, and what type of care you should give to those languages?
Yeah. Wow, it's really interesting how you said like a daughter. Yeah, I consider when I learn a language, now this is just my own personal one method that works for me, is I learn it and I try to find a motivation and a reason to learn it. I don't want to learn a language, oh, it's going to make me more money. No. Why? It's going to connect me to what? And then when I for example, when I wanted to learn Portuguese, why am I learning Portuguese? And then when you see the cultures of Portugal, of Brazil, of Angola, and all these other places that speak Portuguese, it is so amazing and so beautiful that I want to be part of that. I want to learn and enjoy that. So when you make the language learning part of who you are, you have to find a cause, not just I'm learning it to collect a language. No, it has to become part of you.
Can you give us an example of a noble cause that drives you to learn a new language?
Yeah, let me see. A new language, for example, like
Mandarin, for example.
Mandarin.
Yeah.
basically just knowing that for me, when I began studying, okay, it's that it's the most spoken language on planet Earth.
Mm-hmm.
That it's from a 5,000-year-old civilization, and that the culture and the language is so at least for me, when I hear it, it's beautiful. I wanted to learn that. It was just like I want to learn it, and also for career, and also just for culture, just for the satisfaction of being able to go into a Chinese restaurant and order in Mandarin, and then people, oh my God, it's funny. I love that situation, but it's just beautiful to be able to express yourself in such an ancient, beautiful language like Chinese.
Yes. Have you thought of learning Arabic?
Yes, that's one of my next languages that I want to learn. Again, Arabic is beautiful. There's so many Arabic words in Spanish, a lot. It's not just like one or two. It's hundreds of words. Like ojalá comes from inshallah.
Yeah.
Camisa, camis, pantalón. You know, there's so. I mean, and other things. Almacén. You know, so many.
Alcántara also.
Alcántara. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. By the way, this is for participants. We have a joint project. We are not going to disclose it now. Javier and I working on something. So, what are the 9
very
languages?
Interesting.
It is. What are the 9 languages that you speak?
The 9 languages are Spanish is my native, then English, French, Portuguese, Italian, Burmese. My Burmese is, I would say, basic conversational. I can conversation. Then I learned Interlingua, which is an international auxiliary language. It's almost like a modern Latin. Then my conversational German and Mandarin Chinese, and then those are the ones I can actually speak very, very good in. Then the reading proficiency is that I can read Latin, Catalan, Galician. Was it the other one? Aragonese, which is Spain, Corsican, Sicilian, Sardinian, Asturian, Occitan, Chavacano. Chavacano is like a Spanish-based language spoken in the Philippines. Papiamento, and then 2 other international auxiliary languages called Lingua Franca Nova and Noviao. Those I can read just fine. But I mean, I would love to learn more. I'm trying to encourage myself to learn more Catalan. And Occitan is also very interesting to me. The Occitan is spoken in the south of France.
Yeah. Great. So, do you have
and
questions?
Taino, I forgot.
And Taino, of course.
Taino.
Yes.
Yeah. Taino,
Okay. What did I say in the beginning to my dear guests in Taino? Toi Karia means good evening. I told them, I greeted them. Yes. And matro, do you understand me?
Matro, yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
So good. Now, let me ask you about this project of revitalization of a language. So, what made you? What drove you to do that project and to take the initiative of bringing to life a language that was extinct? Sorry.
Yeah. So what the history with Taino is that after the Spanish conquered Puerto Rico in the 1500s, there was wars against the Taino, and eventually the Spanish conquered. They won. Although there was always some battles here and there, and like guerrilla warfare situations, but the Taino as a society were pretty much gone. except they lived in the mountains. They escaped and lived in remote communities. But through time and through centuries, the Spanish language became the common language in Puerto Rico. Although there are many, many Taino words that became part of our Spanish language. Okay, and even some that went into English, like the word hurricane comes from Taino huracán. And then that also became the word in Spanish, huracán. Barbacoa in Taino, barbacoa went also barbacoa in Spanish, and in English, barbecue. When you do a barbecue outside. So, and also the word hamaca became hammock in English. So there's a lot of Taino words that you probably know, you just didn't know they were from Taino. Exactly, the origins. So through centuries and centuries, the Taino language has not been spoken as the common daily language. Just a word here, a word there, that's it. And then in time, some scholars, they actually found and made a list of all the Taino words that we know of, that survived, all the centuries that they found. So I wondered, like, oh, I wish I could speak. This is years ago when I was a younger Javier with less gray hair. But I was wondering, I wish I could speak Taino, not just, say bread or dog, not say just simple words. I wish I could learn how to speak it. But no one recorded that. No one did that information, or no one did that work. So basically, in time, I did research, and no one had done this. All that.
Javier, is this a sort of
just a list of
resistance against a colonial power speaking the native language? Is it a form of resistance?
Yeah. It can be. That's the thing. Some people may not see it as that; they just see it as a cultural. Oh, it's so nice to learn this. But you can also, language can also become political. And the mere act of speaking a specific language in a specific place, can be political and could be resistance. For example, in Puerto Rico itself, even without talking about Taino, in the beginning of the 1900s, there was the United States in Puerto Rico. They did a lot of language policy that tried to eliminate Spanish and just enforce English. Well, that didn't work too well. And they failed because Puerto Ricans are, nope, we speak Spanish. We're going to ignore these rules. We're going to keep speaking our beautiful national language, Spanish. That's it. And it did. And even today, over 90% of Puerto Ricans still speak Spanish as their native language. So that in that case, Spanish was the language of resistance in this situation. What I did with Taino is to bring it back because I thought it should. Sometimes before I began, I tried to find if there was a group doing something, but no one was doing anything with this. So I decided, if no one's doing it, no one can make a committee, no one can organize themselves. Why not? Mm-hmm. There is not an international authority you have to ask permission to recreate another language. If you have the incentive, you have the skill, do it, and then see what happens. Yeah.
What did you exactly, and what are the sources that you have relied on, and what are the steps and phases that you have carried out to carry out this project?
Yeah, great question. Initially, I had to find all the list of words that exist with Taino words. And there were about 500 words. But the words are just like they're not connected. It's like dog, flower, rock, tree, like this, like just words, like a vocabulary list, mm-hmm. but not in context. Mm-hmm. So I didn't know how the Tainos would say that or this or plural, that was lost. So I got all the words together. then I studied the linguistic cousins and brothers linguistically of Taino, which were the Arawak languages. So the biggest Arawak language today that is actually spoken today in Colombia and Venezuela in a small community called Guajira is the Wayu language. The Wayu language is like it's almost like the Portuguese to Spanish. It's different, but it's very similar. You see? So I studied these other languages because they exist today and people speak them today. So I got to see how they do the plurals, their sentence structure, their grammar. Because right now, it's impossible for me to go back in time. I don't have a time machine to see how the Taino spoke 500 years ago. So all I have is a method of using this this model. The only successful language up to this point of language revitalization has been Hebrew. When Eliezer ben Yehuda got biblical Hebrew, Aramaic, Arabic, some European languages like German and Yiddish, basically he created the modern Hebrew language, which is today the language in Israel. But that's an example of, before then, there was no modern Hebrew. He took the time, did the effort to recreate it. Now, it wasn't perfect, and I'm sure there were people in the time when he was creating it that were laughing at, oh, that's not real, that's fake, you're creating stuff. And sometimes I get some of that criticism too, from some people that think that the Taino that I recreated is not pure Taino. And I'm the first one to say that it's not, because it's impossible to go back in time and see how they spoke. You see? So
you started with the
best.
vocabulary. You started with
Vocabulary?
the vocabulary. Yes. And then?
Yeah. And then I looked at the grammar structures
Structure.
of the related languages of Taino, which is Wayu, Lokono, and Garifuna are also very, very close. And then I discovered that I found a really good resource with Arawak, the actual Arawak grammar. And that was amazing because it's like finding it's like if you're trying to recreate Spanish, then you find a Spanish grammar book.
Yeah.
Perfect situation. So I basically, I use the ancient Arawak grammar, the most useful parts of it that I could. And then I started slowly creating basic grammar. And something that I wanted to do, very important, is if I'm going to recreate this language, it's going to be new, it's going to be different, but it's going to be Taino. Like, I wanted it to be authentic enough, but also easy to learn. That's important because I don't want to recreate a language that is so complicated to learn that you need a PhD to learn the language. Yeah.
But vocabulary and grammar only cannot constitute or build a language. There are so many other things like the cultural elements, the nuances that you have mentioned earlier, and the way you say it. So how did you deal with that extra linguistic element?
No, well, it's true. It's not just vocabulary and grammar. There's a lot of cultural insight and thought that goes into this. So yeah, it's difficult because we don't know. You see, so we can just extrapolate. We can think, oh, they maybe did thought like this, but we don't know. But something that I try to put in the language is not only to make it easy to learn, but to make it authentic and use Taino language as much as possible. And the Tainos, according to history and the grammar, the basic words that we have, that they were very descriptive. Is, like, it wasn't just you say, oh, the boy or the girl. Like, you can say boy or girl who is not married. There's certain cultural nuance that you can add to it. And I wanted to keep the language. I didn't want to give it Spanish the grammar structure. I wanted to give it as more authentic Taino as possible. So it became like a agglutinative language. So the personal pronoun that you're using, the subject and the verb can be all together. You see? So you can read it, and then you know the entire who said it, what the verb is, the tense, everything in one group, in one word.
Yeah. And is it spoken now in Puerto Rico? Is it
there are
spoken
people
now?
learning. There are people
Learning it?
Yeah, in schools, in for children, which is great in Puerto Rico.
And it is your invention.
Yeah. So there are people learning it.
Do you have an estimate about the number of students who are learning this new?
Let me see. I don't know the exact.
Language?
I don't know the exact number, but I know there's some school programs. I think 2 or 3 school programs running right now. But I know that many people bought the book. When I published the book, many people bought it, and maybe they're learning it on their own in their house, you know.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to, next steps, one of my next projects with Taino is to do like a YouTube video series where I can read and so people can see how it's pronounced in that type of situation.
So can you show us now how it is pronounced? Can you, for example, speak, let's say,
okay,
try to say something, communicating something related to that discussion to our guests.
Let me see. Da crow anulia nagu. I love languages. Da Javier ba. My name is Javier. Takmuna Boriken toka. I'm from Puerto Rico, Boriken. Boriken's our ancient name. Not Puerto Rico is a Spanish name, and then Boriken is the actual indigenous name. Takanulia Spanska, Inglenagu. Let me see. I'm trying to think what else. I mean, right now I'm just like
try to describe me, or try to talk about the meeting, our meeting in Tunis.
Ooh, okay. Tunis, Cheroto Mai, Tai Karaja, Hammouda Salhi, Henmai.
So what did you say?
No, that you're a very interesting person and that you're a good friend.
Thank you.
No,
Okay.
no, of course.
Great. Thank you very much, Javier. And I think we need to open it to the public now. And I can see so many requests. So,
wow, okay.
Yeah. Do you mind if we take 3 or 4 questions each time?
Perfect.
So perhaps you need to
whatever
take
you
note.
feel to.
Because there are so many requests. Okay, let's start with Dad Matmati. Go ahead, please.
Hello, Mr. Salhi, and hello, Mr. Hernandez. Good evening, everyone. First of all, I want to thank you, Mr. Salhi, for making me learn a new word today, which is hyperpolyglot. I had to Google it to know that it means the capability of learning and using many languages thanks to a particular neurology. I just want to ask if it is a gift that someone is born with or something anyone can improve or achieve. It means, can anyone be a hyperpolyglot? And thank you.
Thank you.
That is
Lisa?
That is a great question.
That is, yeah.
Oh.
So we are taking 3 or 4 questions, and then I will hand it over to you. Yes. Lisa Saidi, go ahead, please.
Okay, hello everyone. So first of all, I must say that your journey is extremely inspirational, and thank you for sharing it. And I have 2 questions. So first, how did you deal with the similarities of all those 9 languages you speak? And my second question is about the Taino language. I want to know more about the grammar and the tenses. And thank you.
Thank you. Ayman. Wasal, sorry, Khalifi, and then Ayman Tarhouni. Wisal? Ayman Tarhouni?
Hello. Hello.
Yes, hello. Yeah, we got you.
Hello. Sorry. It's such a pleasure to have you here today with us, Mr. Hernandez. Not every day you get to meet a polyglot. I salute you for your passion, and I really hope you can be, not as good as you are, but, somehow good. So speaking a certain language doesn't necessarily qualify us to translate from or into that language because, it takes more than that, culture-wise, and so on. And so, polyglot, how did you effectively manage to learn all these languages and felt confident and comfortable in using each and every one of them? How do we develop the languages we want to specialize in or just want to learn in general? Any technical tips? And is there a more dominant or privileged language than another nowadays? Or all languages can serve us in and our careers? And by learning many languages, won't there be a risk of jeopardizing our performance when these languages overlap? And have you experienced anything familiar? And thank you so much.
Thank you, Wisal. Ayman?
Well,
Ayman Tarhouni?
Hello.
Hi.
And so my question is, first of all, it includes kind of a definition of a dead language. So by definition, a dead language is the language that has speakers. So that brought back a language means that it is being spoken by at least one person as their native or mother tongue. So my question is, are there currently any kids in your country that speak this language as their mother tongue? And if so, for how long has it been going on?
Thank you. Muhammad Salah Isa?
Good evening.
Hi.
Greetings, sir, and greeting our professor. So my question is as follow. Can we argue that the diversity of languages can create division? And if we take the United States of America as a figure of study, can we say that making English the most commonly used language helped a lot in establishing unity? Moreover, if we travel back to times of colonization and etc., I'll be taking us to the context of Tunisia and the French colonization and how the colonizer had to educate recruits who couldn't speak the colonizer language in order to communicate. And in some sense, it was a double-edged sword. And by that, I mean, they helped promoting one new language and at the same time burying these people native language. And thank you, sir.
Thank you. Salwa El Batut, perhaps the last question in this round.
Yes, hello. I am happy
Hello.
to be with you today. Hello, Mr. Javier.
how are you? How are you?
Fine, thank you. I am an international interpreter, conference interpreter. I would like to ask you, what do you think about people who are proud of speaking one or more foreign languages, French, English, or so on, while they don't know at all their mother tongue, their native language? Huh? I think interpreters or ordinary people, I think that these people miss something. So I would like to know your opinion about that. Thanks.
Sorry, Javier, there is only one request left. Let's take it in this round. Wa'il bin Ali.
Okay.
Thank you. Wa'il bin Ali, go ahead, please.
Hi, Mr. Hernandez.
How are you?
Fine, thanks. Well, my question is, are you following any strategy in learning languages? Because, you know, many languages share many criteria, alphabets, and even words. And this helps in learning the language quickly. For example, Spanish, French, Italian
Yeah.
share many criteria. However, if you are an English speaker and then you decide to learn, for example, Chinese or Arabic, you have to start from the zero. You have even to learn to produce new sounds, and this will be difficult. So are you selective in choosing the languages you are going to learn?
Thank you.
All right, good question.
I would
Good
like
question.
to invite everyone to show that blue hand starting from now if they have questions or requests. We are going to take another round after Javier responds to these questions. So over to you, Javier.
Okay. Thank you. These are all very, very good questions. I feel some of these questions can be a whole panel discussion. Some of these questions, they're very good. But I'm going to try to answer them as concise as possible, but because of time limitations, again, there's too many questions, and then the next round, but I'll do my best. So hyperpolyglot, yes, I feel that it's both a combination of nature and nurture. I think some people are just born with this gift. I guess I'm one of them, okay? But if I'm born with it, great. But what if I don't do anything with it? You see, there are people who maybe are natural polyglots and they would never know because of the opportunities, or maybe what if you live in poverty, but your brain is wired to learn many languages, but you don't have the opportunities? You see? So I think that it's both a nature and nurture situation. But also, what if even if you don't have the neurology to learning multiple languages, if you work at it, if you really get determined to learn, I will learn 2 languages, even just one language, you can do it. It takes time, maybe longer than if you're a polyglot, but you can do it. It's possible. It's not an impossible situation. But yeah, no, that's a very good question. Yeah. So I just believe it's both. It's a situation where it's in your brain, but also the opportunity and your determination and commitment to learn and maintain the languages. Okay. Next question. Yeah, many of the languages, not just some, many are related, and I do that on purpose because why not? You see, I learned Spanish and English first. I could have learned Swahili, but first off, when in my school they didn't have any Swahili books or anything like this, or any other languages, but I did have access to resources in French, Portuguese, and Italian, and that's so what a coincidence that they're also Latin languages. So that helped me. Now, there are some people who don't speak, like let's say if you only speak English, to learn French is very difficult because of the language structure, and Italian also. But if you already speak Spanish, you're already ahead because of the Latin base. So yeah, I mean, my guidance is if you're going to start selecting languages, make them the easiest ones for you to learn so that you don't have to learn for 20 years just to get one language. If you can do it in a year or less, or 2 years, that's amazing. That's great. But then it's not just which is easier to learn, but also which is more useful, and also what is special to you. Because if you want to learn a language just because it's the most spoken language on planet Earth, great. Okay, you can learn. Arabic is one of the biggest in the world, but Chinese, Bengali is one of the bigger ones also. But you can do that for career purposes, or if you're going to work in a specific region of the world. But also languages that may not be as big and with numerous millions of speakers, but if they're special to you, they could be an indigenous language, they could be a regional language, the language, and maybe like some people call dialects. One of the phrases or one of the quotes that I love is when people try to say that oh, he speaks a dialect, when people try to do that to certain languages, a language is a dialect with an army. That's it. And in fact, I even change it a little bit to a language is a dialect with an army and a communication system. So, for example, Spanish it's an internal language, but really, it's been a part of Spain initially. It was any other, if Galician or if Andalusian had more economic and more military strength, right now I would be speaking Andalusi. So there's one of those things to consider. Have it special to you. Okay. Yeah, similar. Somehow, I don't know, it could be the neurology. I don't get them confused a lot, because when I'm going to speak in a different language, like let's say French or Portuguese, I literally have to kind of like I get 2 seconds of just kind of like mentally prepare myself, and then I just kind of click and start speaking. That works for me. Maybe it's difficult for other people, or you have to come up with your own special way of accessing that knowledge. Let me see how you learn with the confidence. Yeah, one of the things that, again, when you learn a language, and I'm sure all of you somehow experience this, is you don't want to sound silly when you speak a different language. So there's the confidence issue. And one of the things I've discovered is, usually if you try to speak a foreign language, the speakers of the language are so impressed that you're speaking that language that no one's going to be laughing at you. I have this issue a lot. People ask me in Puerto Rico, and even in the United States, they ask me, oh, but I'm nervous. I'm going to sound silly if I speak a language. It's going to sound really stupid, And I have to tell people, listen, you have to forget that. Don't think that. You have to have confidence in yourself, in your skills, and just understand that if I'm learning a different language, you will never, never, ever in your whole life become a native speaker. So just get that thought, throw it away. You're never going to be a native speaker. Now, you can be a conversant, almost fluent speaker, and that's great. You see? So when I speak French, I don't speak Parisian French. No, I don't speak Quebecois French. I speak Puerto Rican French. So my accent, who I am as a person, comes through in this other language. I can get myself understood and understand and laugh and have funny comments, but the way I sound is not going to be a perfect Parisian French speaker. No, and I'm not trying to do that. You see, that's one of the things where, like, hopefully one day, if I can learn Arabic one day, I understand and I accept right now I will never be a native Arabic speaker because I was not raised in that culture, in that environment. That's okay. But if I can at least talk to you, have a conversation, ask you how your grandmother's doing, order some food, talk about politics, that's enough. That's great. I don't have to write the next important novel in a language just to be able to say that, oh, I speak the language. So those are one of the things, to think about. You see the prevalence. I'm trying to think of so many questions. I speak Taino. Oh, so yeah. So yeah, Taino was not spoken for almost 400, over 400 years. So yes, the individual that said that, yeah, right now there is no native speaker. So the revitalization is kind of is almost like a resurrection, if you will, because it's a dead language and we're bringing it back. So it's not like I went to the forest and I found Taino and he showed me how to speak the language. No, it's a scholarly work. It's a lot of work, to create new words
So how
that
much
Tainos
time
never
did
saw.
it
Like the
take you,
Tainos never saw.
Javier? How much time did it take you to do the resurrection?
This took me 9 years. I'm sorry. This took me a little bit over 9 years of study, of learning all these words, of combining to make new words. For example, I was saying that the Tainos never saw a plane, so I had to create the word for plane. They never met anyone from China, so I had to create. Wait, can you hear me?
Yeah, we do.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, what is the word for plane
So
that you have
there's a
created?
lot of new words that I had to create. I'm sorry?
What is the word for plane that you have created in Taino?
Oh my God! Basically, the word is like a metal, like a metal bird. Metal bird. So let me see the word. Wait, hold on. Can you see me? I'm having some issue.
Yeah, we.
Can you
breaks.
Can you see me? Wait.
We can. Yes. Sorry, you are muted, Javier.
Okay. Sorry. I'm sorry with the Zoom. I'm new to the Zoom world now. Yeah. So basically, the words. A lot of words have to be recreated. Like for example, like China, the China Arat. So basically, you have to put Arat, which means nation, next to the word of the country, and just to make it more modern, like a modern version of what the language would be. So it takes a lot of effort to do all this and new words, and every time I think I'm finished, a new situation arises that lets me like, oh my God, this is so long work, and I'm still working on it. This isn't like a finished project. This is an ongoing project that even in a few years, if I'm still working on it, it's okay, because it's a language. It's a bringing it back. Language and unity. Oh, this is a great question. Language and unity. Yeah, when a country has one language, for example, like I could say like Japan. Japan is pretty much Japanese, but when you have language diversity, it can be good, but then there's a lot of political situations where, is that other language respected, or is there one main one? You see, in Canada, for example, there's English and French, but even though they're both official, there's tension there. Some English speakers resent that. The French speakers think that it doesn't go far enough. So there's always issues with language, and there's some people sometimes who are threatened by bilingual speakers. I've experienced that in the United States, where some English speakers resent a bilingual speaker because a bilingual speaker can usually get better jobs, and a bilingual speaker is usually a minority. So sometimes when a majority feels that the minorities are getting better jobs than they are, that creates animosity, that creates issues and problems, and people yelling at you to speak English, that situation, and it's sad. It's very sad. And like I said, language and unity is language can be a resistance, like we were talking about earlier, like in Puerto Rican history, the act of keeping Spanish alive was resistance. That was the resistance. It didn't involve like anything violent or anything. Just keeping Spanish alive was resistance enough. Native language attitudes. Yeah, I've experienced this where some people in Puerto Rico, they give because of the colonial situation that we still live in today, they give some people have the colonial mentality, and they feel that English is a superior language, that English is more special, English is more powerful, because of these people from the north speak the language. And yeah, which is true. Okay, English is a great language to learn. It's beautiful. It's a global language. But it doesn't take away that you also speak a great and beautiful language. But usually in colonial situations, the language of the ruled is ridiculed, is mocked, they're made to feel that their language is inferior. And I'm sure that that's happened also in Tunisian history and in history of many countries that were under colonial rule. I understand how some people if they feel it's more important to learn English or French or some other European language, but then they don't give their own almost important. It's not important enough to learn their own language. And many times this is a reflection of a society that may still have colonial mentality in it, where it's great to learn as many languages as you can, English, French, Russian, whatever. But if you don't speak and master, even not just speak, but if you don't master your own native language, I feel that you can't move forward. If you can't even speak to your grandmother, basically, you know. And then okay, the last question: how learn a language? I use now. I mean, when I began, I remember there was no YouTube or nothing, almost no resources. But now, to maintain the languages that I use a lot of video, YouTube, TV, and books. I still have books, and I just keep reading and keep reading. I try to also in Wikipedia. If you're looking for something more intellectual, you can go to Wikipedia and find a subject, any subject that you're interested in, or a historical person or something, anything that you like, and you can go on Wikipedia in that language and find it, and then you have access to that. So if you, for example, if you're really into agriculture, I love agriculture. Me personally, I love agriculture. But if you want to learn, about agriculture in French, great. You can go to Wikipedia French site and find all this information and learn about what your passion in the target language. So that's something that you can do. Also in YouTube, there are thousands of millions of videos in the topic that you're interested in that language.
Good.
Yeah.
So as a polyglot, I would like to ask you whether a polyglot has to have a good guessing power of languages. So how good are you in guessing languages when, for example, you are in a
I know where you're going. Yeah.
You know where I'm heading to.
Yeah.
So let me try it with you, and I'm going to share my screen. And this was not planned, but let's do it. Let's play a game.
Okay, let's go.
Okay,
let's go.
Language squad. So do you like the level of medium or hard?
Ooh, let's start medium. Let's start
medium. Okay, but I have a concern about the sound. If I share my screen, then it I don't know whether the sound will also go through.
Oh no, I can see you and see your screen.
Yes, just one moment. So here it is. Can you see it now?
Yeah, I can see you and your screen.
Great. Now, so I ticked medium, and let's try the audio, whether you can receive the sound. Can you receive the sound?
Yes. It's not that clear, sir.
No, I
Not
don't.
very well.
Not very well.
Is it like an audio? You're going to play an audio?
Yeah, it's an audio. Let me. How about now? Is it better?
Yes, it is better.
Yes.
No?
I can hear.
So what language is this? Albanian, Serbian, or Xhosa? I did not hear. Sorry.
I can't hear it. I cannot hear it.
Sorry?
I can't hear it.
Oh, you can't hear?
No, no.
Oh, I'm sorry. It will not work. So let's.
I love Language Squad.
Yes. But who won it last time when you were in Tunis?
I think you did. I think you're like the expert.
Somehow. Anyway, good. So let's take Sarah Tabli.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you for giving us this opportunity to both of you, doctors. So I have 3 questions, please, short ones. My first question is to Hernandez, sir. Please, sir, could you tell us how do you learn a new language? It's like, do you decide like I'm gonna learn French, or is it like natural? For example, like you hear it once and you're like, yeah, this is a good language to learn. My second question, is, do you find similar words in different languages with, for example, different pronunciation? Like, for example, I am learning currently both Hindi and Turkish, and sometimes I find the same words with different pronunciation, like for the word hatred. In Turkish, it's nafrat, and in Hindi, it's nafrat, and in Turkish, is nafret. Like only different, like the vowels. And my third question is: do you feel, sir, like your personality changes when you speak different languages? It happens all the time to me. So, is it normal or?
Yeah, it's very normal.
It is.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. That.
Excuse me, sir, if may I interrupt?
So we have that first, and then I will take you well.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
My question is, do you give importance to the accent of each language you learn, and which one was the hardest for you and how? Thank you.
Thank you. Well,
I think our speaker guest misunderstood my question. Actually, I asked him about if he is following any strategy in learning languages. Like there is, it's not random. Like he's not today, he is speaking English and then he wake up and say, oh, today I will learn, for example, Japanese. So is there, it looks like he's being selective in his choices. Yeah, that's my question.
Thank you. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. That's a good question. Okay.
Yes, Javier, to you.
Okay. So can I start answering now? Oh, okay. Okay. First question. Yeah. Yeah. The how, learn, and why. Again, it's just I select a question. I select the language that I'm going to learn, and I just focus all my effort into it. And I learn not just the language, but the history of the language to give me a better sense, of why it's spoken like this. And like I said, it could be something because you see it's special. Maybe it's your like a language that your family used to speak centuries ago, or a language that used to be spoken where you live now. It could be a special heritage language. It could be a language for career. It could be like for work, that for career opportunities. That could do that. Yeah, when I personally learn, I focus all my effort into one language. I try not to do 3 languages at the same time. So I just focus on one. Really become one with that language. Immerse myself with video, TV, music. I try to find music initially that isn't that, people singing, but that are slower, not very, very quick, speed, because then if you're learning, it's very difficult to catch what's being said. But if you learn how to sing basic songs in that language, that builds your confidence. And then also, like I said, find information in that language that you are passionate about, and that helps you. It helps you reinforce the importance of it in your own life. The use of cognates, yes, there are a lot of cognates, especially within the Latin languages, a lot, and even that are not, like with Arabic, Spanish and Arabic, so many cognates just in there. Cognates, the words that are similar or almost the same or similar in different languages. So whenever you see a cognate, I consider that a friend. It's like a freebie. It's like a free help with learning a new language. It's one less word that you have to struggle to remember because you already know it. So it's good to it's a good thing. The importance of accents. Yeah, I try to learn, and always focus on the accent. I try to have the best accent that I can, knowing that I will never ever be perfect in an accent. But I try to do it. But and which accents, for example, if one day I'm going to learn Arabic, which Arabic am I going to learn? Egyptian Arabic, Tunisian Arabic, Moroccan Arabic? Which one should I invest time and effort into? And then for example, let's pretend that I choose Tunisian Arabic. Even if I study Tunisian Arabic for 1 year, all day, I'll get good, I'll get very conversant, but I'll never be speaking like a native speaker. That because I wasn't raised in that, in that culture. I didn't say those words for my whole life. So, I mean, I'll get very conversant, and I'm sure Hammouda will laugh if he hears me speak Tunisian Arabic. But that's an example. I mean, you try to choose, which language, and you try to mimic as much as possible the accent, knowing that you'll never be perfect, and it's okay. No one is expecting you to be a native fluency speaker in a language that you just learned. No one. That's impossible. Okay, even for a hyperpolyglot, you can't do that. And then the language. Okay, the strategy of language learning. Yes, I am very selective. I apologize, I didn't understand the question before, but yes, I am very selective when I choose a language. So, for example, the first languages that I learned, on purpose, they were all related to Latin. So that helped me. That was a great thing that that they were that close together, that I can learn them and not have to really, really go outside of the language box to a grammar that is totally foreign to me. So just because of that linguistic affinity, I managed to learn those other languages because of Spanish. Spanish helped me learn French, Italian, Portuguese like this. Let me see. Oh, and going back to the importance of accents, the hardest one, and I'm still struggling with, is with Mandarin Chinese because of the tones. I mean, that's something where you can try to learn that perfectly, and it's great. The more you learn it, the better. But it's important. But I think also, even if I speak in Mandarin Chinese and I see the wrong tone, through context, people know what I'm trying to say. Like this. So if I say the ni hao ma, how are you? If I don't say the ma correctly, people know that I'm not trying to say the word horse. So, for example, like those are those situations. But yes, you need to be selective, because even if you were a monk living in some mountain and you had 40 years to learn any language you want, any languages you want, you still have time, and the family, school, all their life is happening, and it's very difficult to dedicate hours and hours of time to learn a language. Usually it's minutes here, an hour here, like this. But so you have to be selective. It's not just like Like, oh, I saw a movie in Russian today. I'm going to learn Russian, you know. But why? You know, why would you learn Russian just because you saw a movie? I feel there has to be more of a goal, not just like a. I mean, it could be family. It could be, what if you meet someone who speaks a totally different language than you, but you fall in love with them. They're the love of your life. I mean, I would learn a language for that. So many people do. And okay, I think I've tried to answer as much as I can.
You did. Si Muhammad al-Mansouri, you have the floor.
Good evening, friends. Good evening, Javier. Good evening, Dr. Salhi.
Good evening, Professor.
Two questions. One related to the political dimension of revitalizing or resuscitating a dead language. What would you say to those who tell you that by revitalizing a certain language, you're revitalizing division or the birth of an entity within a state, or a threat to the unity of a country or of a nation? Have you received any such criticism, and how would you respond to it? And my last question is, do you happen to dream in any of these languages?
Yes, dream. Good. Taqwa al-Jandubi. Thank you, Professor Mansouri, for the
Thank you. That was
question.
a great question.
Yes. Taqwa, please.
Greetings, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Javier, for the fruitful meeting. So my question is the following. When you talked about creating this or reviving this language, you said that the Taino people did not have the word for plane, so you have to create a word. So my question is, what is your source of inspiration, or on what do you rely in creating these new words that did not exist from before? As well, as we know, in science, creation of a new scientific projects needs experiments to measure the success of those projects. So did you do so as well? And if you did, please share.
Thank you, Taqwa.
Thank you.
Abir. Alwi.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, doctors. Just I want to ask Dr. Javier about how many does it take you to learn a new language?
Thank you. And then we have Dad again. Dad Matmati.
Yes.
Yes.
So don't you panic when studying one language because you're worried you'll forget the others? And what do you do to keep your memory fresh and to keep all these languages?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good question. Yusra Gharbi.
Hi, Javier. Sorry I came late. All I heard is that you are polyglot. I don't know how many languages do you speak, but I want to ask you if there are some, I mean, when in order to stay fit, you do workouts for the brain, for the languages. Is there like brain games or mind tricks that help you to avoid the risk of losing these languages?
Thank you. Ayal Mabrouk.
Yes. So my question is, what's the point of reviving a dead language? No one is going to use it.
Okay. Thank you. I think these are the questions. So you have the floor again, Javier.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Sorry. There is one other request. Arij Rahal. Yes. It is a late request.
Good evening, everyone. So my question is, each language frames its way or its perception of dance, so of time. So I think that for a novice learner, it's very confusing to distinguish between the usage of dances in different languages. What are, as you're a polyglot, what are do you have some tips or ways to overcome this confusion and master the different usages of dance? And thank you.
Thank you. And there is also Shaima Gizani.
Good evening, everyone. So my question is, they say if you don't practice the language, you tend to forget it. Is it true? And being a multilingual, did it happen to you to mix 2 or 3 languages in one sentence? Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, over to you again, Javier.
Wait, I'm just writing this last question down. Wait.
Go ahead.
Okay, the first question about if resurrecting a language is a threat. In Puerto Rico's case, no. In Puerto Rico, pretty much 100% of the population, or let me be safe and say 95% speak Spanish. That's it. If they speak English, it's great. Okay, I know there's an Arabic community in Puerto Rico. They speak Arabic too, great. But it's a few thousand people. But the Spanish language is secure. It's not going anywhere. It's there to stay. Great. Boom. With Taino, it's not going to try to supplant or change Spanish in that situation. It's a way for people to reconnect with their heritage. And that's what people are enjoying and loving it. And I've gotten a lot of positive criticism of it, not negative criticism, but a lot of praise for usually people saying, thank you, finally. I can speak in some kind of indigenous Taino language. And many people enjoy it. And it's not, they don't see it as a way to, oh, now we're going to get a lot of Taino speakers and then one day we're going to eliminate Spanish. No, that's not going to happen. But many people enjoy just speaking it, and it connects them to their culture. That is really the goal of this language, is to connect Puerto Ricans and others in the Caribbean, who in other places that used to speak Taino, back with their indigenous culture that has really been stripped away. And this is it's a political act, because by doing this, it's saying that yes, there was a European invasion, a European occupation, a genocide of the Native Americans, but you know what? 500 years later, we're back, and it's a way to show we're still here. And many Puerto Ricans, even though they don't speak Taino right now, they did some DNA studies a few years ago, and a lot of Puerto Rican, even me, I think it was like almost 10% indigenous, and I think I could pass for European or Arabic if I'm walking down the street, and I have 10% indigenous of Taino. So many Puerto Ricans have indigenous DNA through the centuries, but this language is a way to reaffirm our culture. It's not viewed by anyone that I know of as a threat in Puerto Rico. Okay, constructing new words. Yeah, so constructing new words. This I take very seriously, because when I construct a new word in a situation where I have to create a new word, like plane, for example, which I just remembered. You asked me, and then we had the technical issue. Plane is Katurasu.
Katurasu, yeah.
Katunasu. So
Katunasu.
Katunasu is metal bird. So basically, I try to create, I try not to use what a Spaniard would translate it into. I try to imagine, if I'm a native Taino and I see a plane in the air, how would I describe it? How would I authentically describe something? And a plane, you know, if you're native 500 years ago, you see something flying, it's a bird. A plane is made of metal, so metal bird. That's just, I came up with that through a strategy of trying to make it simple but yet authentic. You know, I didn't want to say a big machine because the Tainos didn't see machines. So that you see, so that's why or a flying machine, that doesn't make sense. So yeah, when I construct new words, I take it very seriously. Each word, every little word that I do that to, that I create, I put a lot of effort and thought into it to make it easy to say, but yet authentic to the culture and having the use of Taino language there. Yes, when I speak other languages, I feel that my personality changes. Maybe the person listening to me doesn't think so, but I feel that my personality changes, and I know others feel as the same. Let me see. How long to learn a language? It just depends. Like for me, like when I learned during high school, I learned French, Italian, and Portuguese. That was like 3 years. So I could say maybe a year for each language, maybe if you do that. But that's because it was easier for me to learn those specific languages. Now, when I started learning Burmese, it took me almost a year and a half. So to that one, and then Chinese, I took 2 years in college for that. And I'm still not perfect, but I can have a conversation. That's the important part. Let me see. Forget the languages. In order for you not to forget language, I thank God right now I've not had the issue where I forgot a language. But in order to maintain it, yes, practice. You need to practice and use it. Because if you just don't ever use it and you have it in your brain in some little corner inside a neuron with dust on it, it's going to disappear. But you need to use it, or at least you see it come very frequently. I don't speak French every day in my house, no, but at least once a week, I listen to French news, I forgot like French. Like sometimes BBC has other languages also like this. Some YouTube in French just to keep my ear developed. So yeah, you need to practice and practice and practice and use it. I do play language games, especially the one that Professor Salhi is knows a lot, the Language Squad. Yeah, so basically in that game, you listen to languages, and even if you don't know how to speak them, you can identify them. And that is a skill that if you can develop that skill, it's a fun game, it's a hobby if you want to make it a hobby, but it will save you in life, that having that skill, because you can listen to something spoken and you can know, oh, that's Korean. Oh, he's speaking Portuguese. Yeah, even if you don't speak the language, but if you can identify it, I love identifying languages. I've taught my daughter, Elka, I've taught her how to identify the difference between Chinese, Japanese, and Korean. She doesn't know what it says, but she can see and say, oh, papi, that's Korean, that's Japanese. So I think that's amazing that she can do that. That's great. Okay, why learn a dead language? Yeah, I know it's one of those. I asked myself the same reason when I began to reconstruct Taino, and it was basically, again, why not? It was a language that that existed, and then through Wait, hello? Okay, wait, let me, I have to charge my phone a little bit here, so wait a second. All right, I just had to connect it so it won't battery die here. The language, yeah, so why? Basically, it was because I just wanted to do it. And I felt that that language was destroyed and decimated by violence and genocide, and I felt, why not bring it back? You know, and in a way, it's a different version of it, but in a way that people can learn now, so that the descendants of the Tainos can reclaim a part of their culture, a part of their heritage, and that's why I did it. I'm not expecting Taino to become one of the great languages of the world, like with billions of speakers. I'm not expecting that at all. But even if just a few or a few thousand Puerto Ricans and other people speak Taino, that for me would be amazing. You know, and I'm not expecting it also to become an official language one day of Puerto Rico, you know, but if it's a language that people are interested in and spoken, oops, wait a second. Sorry, you know, a language that people can use and to just talk about their family in a way to connect with their culture, then I think that's the more important part. Tips to overcome language confusions. This is difficult because it depends per person. I for instance, I usually don't get confused. I can compartmentalize a language. And basically just have to come up with what works for you in terms of, so that when you're speaking a different language, you have to try to think only in that language. And sometimes you mix a language by mistake or on purpose. Sometimes I like to mix that languages together, but usually for jokes, for joking around or with my family or something funny. But yeah, it can happen, but if you're really serious about the language, you have to come up with your own way of doing it. Because I can tell you what works for me, and I just naturally just compartmentalize. So it's difficult for me to tell you, if you do ABC, then you will never have that happen to you. Yeah, so that's pretty much it for the questions. Are there any other questions, or anyone need to
don't
elaborate
think
more?
so, but I'm worried about time because time is almost up.
True.
Yeah, but I have a final question.
Okay.
In fact, you have already raised it and elaborated on the fact that language establishes a relationship with the world, between the person and the world, and connects the person to the world and connects a person, like in your case, Taino, to the roots of some people, to their identity, to their culture. But there has to be some channels also to establish that connection or reconnection in your case. Connection or reconnection to the heritage, and the heritage can be creative products like music, songs, poetry, even prayers. So do you think, or are you optimistic about the future of Taino to be the language of service, to resurrect also that it can be a language that can help resurrect some of the ancient rituals, some of the ancient prayers, and it will be helping also people to speak with each other by talking to the heart rather than to the head. So are you optimistic about this project of a new language resurrected to be the channel of people in Puerto Rico and elsewhere in the Caribbean to resurrect, also to build channels with their history, with their past, with their poetry, and revive those products, cultural products, and the heritage. Not only to have access to the heritage, but also to revive it and to enjoy it and use it. Thank you.
Yes, yes. No, that's a great question. Yes, I just don't. When I created the resurrected the Taino language, I did it not just for oh, let's just speak Taino and that's it. It has a broader goal, and the goal is, again, like you said, to enrich heritage, but also to expand culture, because now people can express themselves in a language, in a different language that has roots where they're from, and is part of their own history that was taken from them. And now by you speaking this version of Taino, like a modern version of Taino, it's a way to empower yourself and tell all those people 500 years ago that, yes, you did all that, you killed and you did so many bad things to the native population, but here we are, 2020, and we're back. Different, but we're back. and it's just beautiful. And it's an empowering situation. In terms of poetry and music, and that's something that people can then develop. Because once you can have a basic conversation in Taino, then you can develop songs. I translated and created, not created, but I translated the Puerto Rico's national anthem into Taino. And some people love it, and they've already used it in ceremonies in Puerto Rico, political ceremonies, events. It's being used, yeah. So, do you mind if I quickly, so you can hear more of the Taino, if I could sing it right now? Super quick.
Okay, yeah, go ahead, please.
Okay, super quick. It's not a long anthem, but Achi hirabori kwa nahak pusika ipa ayawa. Achi hiratoka a habiras barawa. Inaka roarat man kwatu bikat matunay. Warikol waktukana parakwano akwatu wakacheka barakuta shibakat machete kwa pusika. Wakiba borik wanagu wakiba holu barakutashi kwa kukaha. Barakutashi, 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 barakutashi. There's the Puerto Rico national anthem.
I don't understand it, but I can feel the pride. I can feel the pride, yes. Go ahead.
Because to know that I'm singing a national anthem in a language that was supposed to be dead, in an anthem that used to be illegal. So it's beautiful. It's so... Just singing that anthem it's like being rebellious and 2 times. and I apologize for people. I'm not a singer. My voice is not a perfect singer.
It's Salsabil, Gersen. We are going to take two questions. So these are the 2 last questions. Salsabil and Dad. Salsabil.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Mr. Javier. Thank you for this interesting lecture, and great what you did now. Thank you. For my question, I want to ask you, as there are many words in Spanish originally from Arabic, this didn't encourage you to learn Arabic, especially when we are talking about 2 cultures which are historically related in one way or another. This didn't encourage you to learn Arabic? And thank you.
Thank you.
Dad?
Sir, could you tell us about some of travel or immersion experiences and the impact they've had on you, and how language helped you?
I was like, can you
Thank you.
Can you say one more time? I couldn't hear.
So the question.
Could you tell
go
us
ahead,
about?
please.
Yes. Could you tell us about some of travel or immersion experiences and the impact they've had on you, and how language?
So I think basically, Javier, can you hear me? We
Yes,
lost
yes.
that. Did you have any incident in your travels, and whether your knowledge of languages could come to your rescue in that trouble? So this is basically the question. We are going to take a last question from Yusr Salhi. Go ahead, please.
Hello, Mr. Javier.
Yes.
I was thinking, what are your thoughts on people claiming that you have to speak the language of the people when you are in their country? Otherwise, you don't have the right to maybe voice out your opinion. Or is like maybe they claim it's disrespectful that you talk a language they don't speak while in public.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Oh.
So over to
That's
you.
a good question.
Javier.
There's a question from Mervat Saber in chat.
Sorry? Mervat Saber. Yes, thank you so much. I have a question, Javier. Do you work in the project of revitalization of indigenous languages and the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples?
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes, over to you.
So I'm going to go backwards. I'm going to do that question first and work my way back to the first one. So yeah, no, I know the United Nations has and other international groups. They have a lot of days and special events, but I'm just one person, and I don't have an organization just for this Taino language revitalization project. So yeah, I don't have any any contact with the United Nations or anything like this. It's just an effort, a personal effort, and people are accepting and enjoying it. Yeah, but speaking with language and opinions, I think it could be in my own opinion about giving opinions is basically anyone could give an opinion. I mean, as an outsider, for example, I can learn about Tunisian politics. I can learn, and then I have an opinion. Now, whether my opinion would be considered a very serious opinion, that's debatable. But I can learn about Russian history and Russian politics and have an opinion about that. So having an opinion shouldn't be based on whether you speak a language or not. That's now maybe some people may have an issue with maybe if you're giving an opinion and they don't agree with you. So maybe if they agreed with you, then they wouldn't have a problem with your opinion. I find that also a lot in Puerto Rico. That happens a lot with politics, where I currently live not in Puerto Rico right now, but hopefully soon we're moving back one day, but within the countryside or something. But some people say that because I live outside, I have no reason to give an opinion about Puerto Rico. But then those same people don't mind if other Puerto Ricans that live overseas have an opinion, but if they agree with that, then it's okay. But if they don't agree with you, then no, you have to be quiet. We don't want to listen to your opinion. So this happens a lot with many countries when especially if they have diaspora communities overseas. Many countries they appreciate the diaspora, especially for resources, for money, for family, for a lot of things, but sometimes they don't like their opinion. And that's something that I'm sure this happens to in many cultures, in many countries. Let me see, emerging experience. Yeah, when I was a child, I remember, early immersion was to learn English. And I remember learning, but still, I didn't have a perfect accent. And children making fun of you at school or situations like this. No. Now, when you're an adult, that doesn't really happen as much. But an experience that where language saved me, I have a few, but one was sorry. One was I was in Italy, and I was going to I'll take a ferry to cross from Calabria to Sicily. So Sicily is an island, so I had to go in a boat. And I was with some Italian friends, and they wanted, you know, to go with them. So I'm in the boat, and then I didn't know this, but when you go into Sicily, Sicily has, I guess, like a special autonomy. So they have their own their separate own border patrol or border security institution. And they started asking people there about, you know, where you from? Blah, blah, blah. All my friends said, oh, I'm Italian, I'm Italian, I'm Italian. And then I was nervous because I didn't have my my special ID. So I'm like, oh my God, he's going to ask me if I'm Italian. So he asked me, and I, in my basic, you know, my Italian, I can talk to him. I explained to him that in Italian, that I'm not Italian, that I'm from Puerto Rico. And he looked at me in shock, kind of like, oh my God. And then when he did this, I thought I was going to be arrested. And then the first thing that comes out of his mouth is, I love Puerto Rico. Welcome to Sicily. So, okay. And I didn't even have any ID on me. So he could have denied me entry because I didn't have the proper paperwork. But being from Puerto Rico has its privileges, I guess, sometimes. And the other question, learn Arabic. Yes, I wish I had enough time to learn Arabic. I want to learn Arabic. I have Arabic books in my house. I think I have like 3 Arabic books. But I think they're all like the modern standard Arabic. And I've been told, maybe you guys can help correct this notion, this belief, that with modern standard Arabic, no one actually speaks it. It's just to understand like the news, but no one actually speaks modern standard Arabic. I have to make a decision where if I'm going to speak Egyptian, Iraqi, Tunisian, Algerian, I have to pick one and then go with that one. So, I mean, maybe I think I'm a little in an audience that's a little biased for the Tunisian Arabic, but can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, okay.
Thank you very much, Javier. You have been really an excellent speaker, and you have
thank you.
Reported on your project of revitalization of your of the Taino language, your experience with languages, your experience as a polyglot, and you have also provided us with a good analysis of the benefits and responsibilities of being a multilingual professional and what opportunities you can have by being a polyglot. I think the discussion has been very rich and enjoyable. We could not play the game. We will be having other opportunities to play it, but I'm going to defeat you in any way.
You always do. You always do.
Perhaps you did last time.
No. I remember you won. You're the master, man. You're the master.
I hope so. So thank you very much. And what time is it now? You are in the West now.
No, yeah, I am in Eastern Central Time. It is here. I'm looking. I don't even know what time it is. It's 5 p.m.
5 p.m. So
yeah.
Have a nice afternoon, and look forward
Have a good
to.
night. Have a good
Thank
night.
you. Yes, and looking forward to meeting you in person
yes.
and face to face. hopefully soon.
One day soon.
Yes, thank you. You have been talking to us as part of another project, which is a project of encounters at the shores of translation. Tomorrow, we don't have any talks scheduled. But after tomorrow, on the 2nd of June, we'll be having, let me see the agenda, we'll be having 4 talks. At 11, we'll be having Adi Morgado, who will be speaking about the intimate space of the booth, behavioral aspects. At 2 p.m. Tunis time, Muhammad Quba, who will be speaking about literary translation من قضايا الترجمة الأدبية. Then Evi will be speaking about management of interpreting services, and Mr. Ahmad Khudro will be speaking about audiovisual translation at 8 p.m. And we'll be having 3 speakers on the following day, on the 3rd. Daniel Gilles will be speaking about simultaneous interpreting as theory and practice. Then Najat Mshela, intercultural communication across languages in time and space. And finally, Hanem El-Farhati, Arabic, English, Arabic, legal translation. Thank you very much, dear students. Thank you very much, dear guests, for being with us. And I know time now is very late in Egypt and elsewhere in the Levant. They have been with us. Thank you very much, and hope to see you very soon. Bye-bye and take care.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for listening. Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye-bye. Adios. Bye-bye.